Well, good morning. Good to be with you here on a Tuesday breakfast with Jesus. I hope you're doing well as we launch into a new day, or perhaps if you're watching this in the evening, that you had a good Tuesday. Either way, it's always a good day. It's a beautiful day with the Lord, even if the weather is not cooperating, which it absolutely is not. I'm telling you. What I said yesterday, man, it's just like weather purgatory. We just cannot seem to get free of this lousy pattern of chilly, damp, rainy, gray. Ay, ay, ay. Thank God we have the SON shine, that we can have the joy of the Lord, not be terminally depressed by by all of this. It's just crazy. Oh man, good to see you guys. Thank you so much for jumping in and spending some time with me this morning. It's really such an awesome privilege to know that you guys are out there, and I'm actually talking to real live people. So Jane, good morning. Jackie, good morning. Linda, shalom. Vanny, good morning. Good afternoon. Ted, uh, and yes, we're gonna hope. Exactly. We we have hope that summer is actually going to make an appearance at some point. I have to say that there have been times in the history of especially over the past couple thousand years, more so, I think over the past 1,000 years, when people really began paying attention to the weather. And there have been certain time periods where there literally was no summer to speak of. It just was cold and chilly and you know horrible. And it all has to do with the sun going through its cycles. And we are actually in one of those solar cycles right now. It's called the solar minimum, where there's just not a lot of activity on the surface of the sun for whatever reason, and it has an impact on the overall climate of the earth. It's just crazy. But so we may be in for one of those odd summers that are just not what we have come to get been used to, with all the very hot stuff. We'll find out. It's it's going to get warm. I believe it. Anyway, moving on. Start talking about all of this trivia here. So we're actually going to jump into chapter 4 of John's Gospel, which, oh my goodness, there's so much here that we can look at and learn from, and be really transformed by, as always, right? We are looking at the life of Christ from the viewpoint of that life being our life, right? We're wanting to be like Christ in every way, and represent him in every way. So this particular account that we have here of Jesus visiting Samaria is just, man, it's phenomenal what's here. So I'm not going to read the whole passage. We'll kind of dip in to different spots along the way, because this is, like, I don't know what, 30 some odd verses here. And if I read this, I'd be using up almost half of our time together. So, but what I want to draw your attention to is, after all this with John the Baptist, Jesus, it says that he um, left Judea and departed again to go into Galilee. So he wanted to go back into the area of the Sea of Galilee. He was in and around Jerusalem up till now, and knew that things were getting a little hot from the perspective of the Pharisees, and he knew he still had much more to accomplish. And so his the way Jesus lived his life, obviously, we know that he was led by the Lord. He was led by his Father to go certain places, do certain things, right? He said, I only do what I see my Father doing. We'll look at that scripture later on in John here. So we have to recognize that when he went from place to place, it wasn't just a random kind of, hey, let me go back to Galilee and see how things are. No, they're very strategic. And so when we read here in John chapter 4, uh, again, where he says he left Judea, this is verse 3, and departed again into Galilee. Verse 4, uh, so over 10 years ago, I was studying this, and verse 4 just kind of like, wait, what? It says that he had to pass through Samaria. Now, uh, yes, going from Judea to Galilee, it would make sense to pass through Samaria because that would be kind of the most direct route to take you from Judea to Galilee. But here's the thing. In Jesus' day, the Jews had no dealings whatsoever with Samaritans. As a matter of fact, if a Jew wanted to go from Judea to Galilee, they would avoid going through Samaria at all costs. It was just taboo. It was just one of those areas that, no good Jews are going to travel through Samaria because, unfortunately, there was this huge racial prejudice, this religious prejudice, this bias, this all kinds of bad blood that existed at that time between the Jews and the Samaritans. And so, for that reason, they went, if you were going to travel again from Judea to Galilee, what they would do was go the extra distance through the barren land of what was called Perea at that time, which was on the eastern side of the Jordan, the eastern side of the Jordan. So they would, in effect, travel outside of the boundary of Israel in order to avoid going through Samaria to get to Galilee. I mean, for us, it would be like, okay, I want to travel to Florida from the New York New York City metro area, but because I don't want to go through or pass through, Washington D.C. and be affected by the filth. For example, I am going to go to Chicago, and then from Chicago, I'll go south. Okay. That's kind of like what they did. I mean, it's just amazing. There was just so much bad blood between Jews and Samaritans. Yet, we see here that it says that Jesus had to pass through Samaria. Well, again, that caught my attention. I'm like, wait, what? You had to? So there must be some reason why you had to go through Samaria. And of course, we know that here's where he had that amazing conversation with the woman at the well. So clearly, God had an assignment for him in Samaria, which was to meet with this woman. But again, remember the context of this. Jesus was led by the Father to go into a land where Jews don't go. Okay. Now let's put this into our contemporary Christian context, right? And let me ask you this. Where are places in our current society where Christians are not supposed to go? If you go to places like that, well, you're immediately considered to be a backslider or someone that's compromised. How can you be a Christian and go there? Okay. Certain areas of big cities where there's a lot of gang activity, a lot of drug activity, a lot of prostitution, a lot of things that that are just all kinds of wickedness. Well, good Christians would never be found in places like that, right? Or going into certain people's homes because of who they are, right? Uh, you know, people who Christians that go to these gay pride events. Well, what's that all about? How can they be seen in the company of these people? I mean, there are many places where, you talk to a typical Christian, they would never go into places like that because, oh, God forbid someone sees me. God forbid someone thinks that I, am, and now all of a sudden, I'm part of this scene here. I'm, you know, no longer walking with the Lord because, people see me in a bar, Oh my gosh. So what are we saying? Obviously Jesus could care less about what the Pharisees, I mean, they called him a friend of sinners. So, you know, he didn't care. But what he did care about, and what I think we're supposed to care about is, well, who are the people that are not being touched by God, who are not experiencing some aspect of God's presence, of his love, of his power, because Christians don't go there. I mean, I don't know who that is for you, right? It used to be for me. I used to have this kind of a mentality. It's like, well, you know, you don't do that. You just don't go places like that because, that's lots of wickedness there. Who knows what'll happen to you? There's a lot of fear in the body of Christ over going to certain places. For many reasons. A lot of Christians believe that if you go certain places, that you're somehow going to get that stuff, on you. The enemy's going to attack you, and you're going to become demon possessed or oppressed, or whatever term you want to use. That you're just going to be opening yourself up to all kinds of demonic activity if you go certain places. Well, yeah, that's possible. If you go in fear, if you go believing that greater is he who is there than he who is in you. And there's a lot of Christians that still struggle with that. And I understand that. You know, I was talking with someone a few weeks ago about the vision that we have of going into an inner city environment that's, in our area here, and just beginning to minister to the people that will never likely go to a church. Why would they go to church? You know what I mean? So, but we feel like God's saying, go touch these people, go pray for them, go release my presence, my glory, my healing, all of that. And so that's, but anyway, the person I was talking to was like, oh man, I live in the country, that's where I feel safe. I'm okay in the country. I'm like, okay, I get that, but here's the deal. Where's actually God calling us? Where is he calling us to go? you know, so this example of Jesus going into a forbidden region of Israel speaks volumes to us about, okay, Lord, where am I called to go? Are you calling me to go places where perhaps other Christians are avoiding for whatever reason? I mean, I'm not judging people. Believe me, if you're struggling with this, if you feel like, oh, I could never go, places like that, well, that's fine. You have to work it out with Father God. This is your journey. I'm not comparing you with me or anybody else. I'm just trying to open up the idea that Jesus actually did this. He actually went to a place where the average Jew would never go. It's like, what? Samaria? You're crazy. Those people are crazy. I mean, they had this Samaritans had a belief system that was really defective. Okay. They believed that the mountain that was in Samaria, which is Mount Gerizim, was the chosen place of God instead of Jerusalem and Mount Zion and all of that. They believed that, they only believed the first 5 books, right? The Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Covenant, that was their Bible, nothing else. They, That's all they had. So they were missing so much more revelation from the Lord that it's not surprising that their theology was so screwed up. There's like they believe they were the chosen ones. Moses was the only prophet that they accepted. Um, they had this weird idea that 6,000 years after creation, there was going to come a restorer who would arise and live on earth for 110 years. And so, I mean, they just had a lot of strange beliefs that put them at odds with the Jewish orthodoxy. And so that's where a lot of this was based. Yet Jesus was not afraid to go and begin a conversation with the most unlikely of Samaritan representatives, this woman. And we'll get more into her story as we move forward here. I'm just trying to set the table for you as to Jesus' willingness to go into some place where most people would, most Jews of his day would never go, and have a conversation with someone whose belief system was, completely different from his, had ideas that were screwy because they didn't have the whole truth. Now think about it. How many people do we know every day who have a belief system that is so messed up? They don't know the truth. They just maybe have a little piece of things here and there. They've accumulated all these different ideas that suit themselves. They have become their own Bible, their own God, and so they have a belief system that they like because, yeah, I mean, I like that idea. I like this idea oh, that's great. Syncretism and all this, multi-pluralistic kind of theology. Well, you can't even call it a theology if they don't even believe in God. But anyway, we all know folks like that. And Jesus did not let that stop him from having this conversation with a woman. And you look at the Samaritans and you see so many characteristics in them that parallel characteristics of our modern day society. It's crazy. you know uh the Samaritans, but they focused on externals. They focused on the fact that, well, I'm a Samaritan and you're a Jew. That's exactly what the woman said. How can you, a Jew, talk to me, a Samaritan? Well, what do we have today? We have nothing but people focusing on and dividing us according to our externals, our race, our gender, our ethnicity. All of these kinds of things are now what make up whether or not you're accepted by certain people. No different from the Samaritans, right? They were also very rational and logical and very intellectual in their approach. Um, as we see in this woman, she said, "Well, Jesus, how are you going to get water? You don't even have a bucket." you know and we live in a society that's extremely scientifically based on whether you can feel it or see it or touch it, right? Same kind of an approach. There's also this pride in the origins. The Samaritans were very proud of their origins and their connections. You can see that where she is saying, "Hey, you're not saying you're greater than our father Jacob who gave us this well, are you?" you know Yeah, this pride of origin is something that you see all the time when people want to maintain, instead of assimilating into the culture that's already here and adding to the culture. Well, no, we're going to maintain our culture. That's why people embrace the hyphenated, blank American, whatever it might be, whatever your background is. You are not an American, you are a blank American. Fill in the blank with whatever your origin is, right? So, you see so much of this, that we're experiencing was what Jesus saw in his conversation with this woman, right? The Samaritans were very protective of their turf. It's like, wait a minute. This is where God met us. This is where God, gave the revelation and all of that. Well, we have people in our society today who are very protective of their belief systems and of their power structures and all the things that that they have amassed in their own life. And it's like you challenge that, and immediately you're going to be put down. All the challenges that are being made now against our mainstream media because of their collusion with certain kinds of lies that have been promulgated, and they promote certain beliefs in their presentation, where you just see the bias is there, and you challenge that, and all of a sudden now you're the enemy because, well, how dare you? So there's so much here that Jesus confronted and dealt with, yet did not allow it to prevent him from connecting. See, this is the big lesson. This is the big takeaway that I think we have to have, that when the Lord leads us, and let me just make that clear, you need to be led. We need to be led by him into whatever area that we're called to begin connecting with the people there. If we're not led, if we're just kind of, well, let me go try that. Let me go, it might work, but 9 times out of 10, you won't have the grace or the authority to function there because you weren't led to go there. But when you feel that, when there's a stirring in your heart for a certain kind of a person or a place, because we got to pay attention to that. Jesus knew he had, as it says in John 4:4, he had to pass through Samaria this time to get to Galilee. And so as a result, he knew that there was an assignment for him there, that he had something to accomplish that the Father wanted him to do. Now, I don't think he knew at the outset what it would look like, and that's the case for us as well, right? You may feel this connection with a particular type of person or a people group or a place, and okay, not quite sure what that means or what it's going to look like, but I'm going to go and check it out. I'm going to go, and I'm going to believe God that this is where he's calling me to go. And because I'm called to go, I can be safe and secure in his protection, right? Psalm 91 and all of that, right? We can go in peace, knowing that, all right, there's something here for me to do. There's something that he wants to accomplish through me. And it's even more fun when you do it as part of a team, which is basically the way I operate. I'm not going places without some of my friends because it's just not as much fun when you're doing things by yourself. I mean, Jesus was led to go to Samaria, but he went with his disciples. Okay. So we can go with one another into these places and see, okay, what's up? What do you want to do? What are you calling us to do to connect with these folks and to give them an encounter with you? That's what we're talking about. That no matter how different people may be from us in what they believe, how they live their life, what matters to them, you know what? Ultimately, it's irrelevant. Because if we're called to touch their lives by loving them and praying for them and just releasing the presence of God, that's the great equalizer. Okay. And we'll see that as we get, further along in exploring this account of Jesus speaking with a Samaritan woman, and all that ensued as a result of that powerful story. But we have to start with the understanding that he was given an assignment to go where most people never would go. And honestly, folks, I believe that is true for all of us, that there are going to be times when God says, you go and you connect with that one or that group or that place, and you be the one that goes and brings the light into a dark place. And we've got to be aware and ready for that at some point. If you're not ready now, don't worry. Just keep walking with him. Let him build into you all that's necessary for you to have the confidence to be able to do that. But at some point, you'll get the call and it'll be great. It will really be great. So let me stop there. We'll pick this back up again, but I hope this is encouraging for you to know that even if it seems crazy, if he's in it, man, it's going to be good. And we'll see what, again, what Jesus did here that is just so amazing. So thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning. Let me say good morning to the rest of this awesome breakfast club that we have here. Let's see, where do we leave off? Joanne, good morning, and Bernadette, Donna, Ralph, and Rosa, good to see you guys. And Franny, good morning. Hey, Debbie, how are you? Boy, it's been a while. Jack, yeah, I think I said good morning to you. And there's Patty. Da, 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 da. Yeah, red light district. Well, I've done that. I probably should share that with you guys. The times that I have ministered in the red light districts in Brazil. It's just freaky stuff, but it's good. Trucker church. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that we can engage with. And, that's actually a good idea. If you feel called, find somebody that's already doing it and just go partner with them, go hang out with them. And that's hitting the easy button. Right. Let's see. Donna, good morning. Susan, good morning. And I think I got you all. If I didn't, please forgive me. So once again, thank you. I appreciate so much those of you that share this with your friends. And hopefully we get a few others to watch. Join me, or rather send me an email or a Facebook message if you'd like to chat about anything. Oh, and I almost forgot. Tomorrow we start the Hope Challenge. If you're looking to get greater clarity on God's vision for your life and how to get there, how to begin moving towards the purpose for which you were created, God calls that getting hope, having hope, being able to see what he's promising you, what he's wanting to reveal to you about your life. Check it out at my new website, futureclaritynow.com. And if you want, register and join us starting tomorrow. We'll be doing our 30-day Hope Challenge, which will give you step by step. I'll lead you through a process of simple instructions each day that will help you to get greater clarity on what God has for your life. So I'm excited about that. Excited to be working with many of you that have already joined. And if you'd like to do that, that'd be awesome. So have a great day. I look forward to being back with you again tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern. And so you be blessed.